ding, ding. That was the gavel noise.
Oh, right.
I hope that's what you use. Like, just cut ding, ding
Yeah, well,
every time that I'm like gavel noise.
and we'll see if I can put in a gavel noise.
All rise for the Honorable Judge Daley Wilhelm. Thank
We're
you.
already
You-
standing. Okay.
Oh, wait, you may be seated or you may continue to stand, whatever your desk allows for. Thank you for joining Everything in Poderation in the court of Everything in Poderation, because we here judge the internet to be too much, and we're going to judge exactly how much is too much as far as the behemoth known as cancel culture. I am the Honorable Judge Daley, and join me today are
Colin Sparling. And I don't know why I was making like a fake cheering noise when you can't, like a judge is like walking into an arena like they're about to lay down like they're about to play fucking Wembley.
if I ever I would like that to happen if I was a judge.
I feel like that's what would, like, it would have been for like the O.J. Simpson trials if it was a live event.
Damn. Colin's never been to court, guys.
No.
Not at all. I do have a friend, though. I do have a friend who got taken to small claims court because he stole a Snickers bar during his shift at a gas station and forgot to put $1 in the cash register.
Man, that is small claims as fuck.
Petty as though the judge actually had to like read it several times. He's like, "Am I reading this right? You stole a Snickers bar."
Well, you know, when you need a break, get a judge.
You're not you when you're hungry.
Robert, I'm the ace attorney of this episode of the cancel court.
Yes. We're doing cancel court today, guys, if you couldn't tell. Maybe we'll do this again sometime, but today we are each going to present individuals who have been canceled in the public sphere and argue whether or not they deserve a Zuko-esque redemption arc, because everything is based on Avatar: The Last Airbender, as we all know.
Right, and whoever does get redeemed today does have to not shave their head. I got Avatar backwards in the beginning of that sentence.
So... Wait, are you Aang or Zuko in this situation?
I thought Zuko had to shave his head to get redeemed, and I don't think that's exactly what happened.
No, he got better hair as part of his redemption arc.
Yeah, he cut his ponytail. I mean, his head is already damn near shaved.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so whether or not anything happens to our hair at the end of this, that's for, I guess, you to decide, the audience / jurors. But we can jump right into this here. I'm both the judge and a lawyer. Not the defendant would be my client. Yes.
Wait, so you're the judge.
I'm the judge.
Wait, would that make us the jury, or would the audience be the jury? Who's executioner?
We are all. We are judge, jury, and executioner, because that's kind of how cancel culture works. If you think about it.
I think actually the internet's the executioner here.
Yeah. So let's. I guess these people have been executed in some ways by the internet, and we're going to be determining whether or not that was rightful, or if they did it enough.
Mm-hmm.
If they were killed enough.
Right.
Because
and
you can be half dead.
And much like the court of public opinion, in this cancel court, we're going to listen to all the facts before passing any sense of judgment.
Yes.
Of course.
Clear your consciousnesses, guys. Empty your heads of any preconceived notions, and let's just talk about facts, not feelings.
I do want to say off the bat, I'm not going to reveal who I'm bringing up yet, but I don't want to both sides it. It's I don't want to come off like both sidesing this thing.
No, I can't, and I'll be jumping into this. I'm going to be talking about Louis C.K, and I'm definitely not coming at this from a very both sides argument. In fact, my argument is going to be mainly on the fact that cancel culture isn't nearly as powerful as we like to think it is. It does not scrub people from the face of the earth, and it does not destroy careers in the way that it is often talked about or, assumed. And I think a good example of that is I don't want to call him my client, but my client, Louis C.K. Before the year of our Lord 2017, he was mostly known as a comic, a stand-up comedian that said some pretty profound and funny and interesting things. And they were all wrapped in a very rude persona. I specifically remember that skit that he did where it was Chronic Masturbators of America or something like that. But it was basically him arguing for masturbation across the table from someone against masturbation.
That has aged very well for him.
Fine.
Yeah. Yeah, in case you're let's get into why that's aged like sweet milk. So in 2015 is where we can first track rumors starting to arise of his inappropriate behavior regarding women. And a couple women comics had mentioned he, if you hang out with him one-on-one, he might say, "Can I show you my penis?" And then it's oh, haha. But then he does it, and it's not a joke.
Oh no, the Joker man isn't joking.
It's not a joke in the end. And at first that was largely, rumors, basically people not being believed is the way I'll term that. And he denied that right up until September of 2017. He said, these are just stories. They're totally false. But then in November of 2017, 5 women had told their stories to the New York Times, and a paper article was published basically detailing how he would, across the years, invite various women comics to his room, or he would go to their room at tours and stuff. And usually they were there seeking advice from a very famous writer, director, comic at this point in time. And then he'd be like, "Hey, can I show you my penis?" And they'd be like, "Ah ha ha, funny joke." But then he would, and then masturbate in front of them, often to completion.
Oh, not all the time.
Not all the time.
And his room, the Cosby Suite.
No, that's the other rapists.
It did reveal a lot to me when I saw that on his Wikipedia page that Louis C.K. Credits both Woody Allen and Bill Cosby for a lot of his inspiration. So that really spoke to, I think, his character in this case. Yeah.
Now,
but
wait, do we know why specifically Cosby? Why did he choose Bill Stuffer Cosby?
Probably the sweaters.
But so that's the thing. If we're swerving Activision Blizzard real quick, detour. They did name it because the carpets look like a Bill Cosby sweater, and it's just
allegedly
bad karma. That's the story, right? And I wonder if Louis C.K. is like, "Oh, the C in my name stands for Cosby," so I've always looked up to Bill.
Yeah, I would like to err on the side of he just had that quote was made before the Cosby shit even came out. I'm gonna pray and hope. I don't know.
Yeah, but it's not like many of his. I have to preempt this. After the scandal came out, it's not like many of his fellow comics denounced him. Notably, Dave Chappelle was still very much in his corner, even after the details of him taking advantage of people coming to him and seeking advice in order to basically be the nightmare of what I don't want to be walking down the street and some guy say, "Hey, look over here," and then you get flashed and you see a dick when you don't want to see a dick.
Yeah.
It's a very jarring experience to see a dick when you're not wanting to see a dick. But his official statement after that, and only weeks after his initial denial of that ever happening, he said, I thought it was okay because I never showed a woman my dick without asking first. But I recognize that when you have power over a person, asking them to look at your dick isn't a question because of the power dynamic there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So at least he like kind of recognizes it. Question mark?
Yeah. He said he wielded his power irresponsibly, and that he acknowledged that he hurt people. And he said, there is nothing about this I forgive myself for. So he talked a lot about the shame that he felt about that. And the immediate backlash was that his management team dropped him, and streaming networks like TBS also dropped him and distanced themselves. And he was there was this movie, and it was shot in black and white, that he wrote, directed, and starred in, that was about to come out, and it was like very like Sundance bait, I'll call it. And it was called I Love You, Daddy. So if you ever watch the trailer, it just gives some vibes. Aged very poorly, but that was dropped. And that never came to be published anywhere, I believe. I don't think they finished it, actually, because it was in the middle of production.
Much unlike him.
Order in the court. Order.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
But and he reportedly said that he lost about $35 million in income because of those 5 women coming forward to the New York Times and telling their stories about their horrible experiences with him.
Is that his words? 35 mil?
35 mil.
He just put that out there that he lost that amount of money? Like,
I believe that was in a in like a newsletter email. And this was later newsletter emails announcing, hey, he's back, world tour, yay.
Okay, that's so odd, because I know, like, legally speaking, I don't remember the exact legal term for it, but like, you can't prove damages that have not happened yet, right? It's that idea of like if the week Halo Infinite came out, like Splitgate, this indie Halo meets Portal shooter came out like the week before Halo Infinite, Microsoft could not sue Splitgate because of, they released their Halo-like game a week before us and ate into our profits. Like, because you can't prove that. Like, there's literally no evidence you can put forward to prove that. I've been playing a lot of Ace Attorney. I know what evidence is. I don't think Louis C.K. can really say, well, if people didn't find out that I was a piece of shit, I would have $35 million more dollars.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, it certainly sounds like it comes from a place of cynicism. Yeah, but I mean, at the same time, if he's just kind of saying this in a newsletter and it's not really like, a thing where he's like suing them, it's not a legal, legal case. I mean, he could just be like, yeah, if this hadn't happened, this is how much this is the projection of how much money I would have made.
Yeah, I wonder if it's from like canceled deals with various streaming networks, because he was for FX specifically, he was like in the writer's room for several of those shows. So maybe being dropped from that would have added up to that, or the movie. I'm not sure. But even though his management dropped him, I should note that his management was complicit in this. He had a manager, Becky, last name Becky, don't remember his first name, but I don't know, but also represented John Mulaney at one point, and after all this came out, John Mulaney dropped him. But one of the 5 women that had come forward to the New York Times had said that basically the manager was like, if you say this happened to anyone, you're not guaranteed a career in the comedy space anymore.
And that's real shitty.
Is that a threat? Can we call that a threat? Court?
Emotionally, yes. Legally, unfortunately, no. Probably.
What Robert said. Yeah. Wait, he said that to the women?
Yes. One after CK, which I'm increasingly convinced stands for cat killer or something of that ilk, came for masturbated in front of this woman, and she went to his management and was like, hey, that wasn't okay.
And then she got gaslit, is what you're saying.
Yeah, it was like, I mean, if you tell people about this, what's going to happen to your career?
Mm-hmm.
Wow,
cool.
yeah. Fuck all of that. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so remind me, isn't the Louis C.K. thing, all of this is proven, if I remember right? Like, didn't Louis himself admit? He did admit to all of these things.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was his I guess, for lack of a better word, MO. He would masturbate in front of female comics that would come to him in various social situations.
Yeah.
And let me just put on my right wing thinking hat for like 2 seconds. That's all I can last in it. That means he's completely canceled and is totally broke and his life is ruined and there's no way he can pay for anything anymore, right? Because that's what cancel culture does, right?
So for context,
oh no,
this all happened. The details of all this came forward in November of 2017, right? And then in 2018, I believe it was January, February, March. It was early 2018. He made an unexpected appearance, return, if you will, to the Comedy Cellar, which is a comedy club that's, the big names go there. He would often go there to try out new material. And he came in with some new material, notably about school shootings. And that was around the same time the Parkland shooting had happened. So that's cool. But people liked it because at the end he received a standing ovation about a couple months after his grand canceling.
Wait, I thought canceling ruined people's lives and they could never do anything ever again and be successful.
So, you know what? Yeah, no, go ahead, Colin. Yes.
I was going to say that even when it comes to canceling a comic, in some cases, especially this one, it's even worse because somewhere around there, like months after, maybe even up to a year afterwards, he wrote material around him being found out about the whole like masturbating in front of women thing. I didn't know if you had this on your dossier or not, Daily, but there is a recording of him like cracking jokes about it. Like he's like, yeah, I got found out. Like everyone knows. The craziest thing about all this is now everyone knows my thing. That's what he calls it. That's it. Mm-hmm. It's his thing.
Oh, sexual harassment is a thing.
Yeah, he's like everyone knows my thing. Obama knows my fucking thing. That was his joke. He's like, even Obama knows what my thing is now. Everyone has their thing, and everyone knows my thing.
Mm-hmm. It has a very now that we know, it has a very Andrew Cuomo energy. Because I love how Andrew Cuomo's defense for himself was, "I didn't just do it to her; I do it to everyone."
Yeah, wasn't he like, it's just that I'm Italian and we're very feely people, right?
Yeah, which is like, okay, dude, I have Italian blood too, but like, okay, man.
Yeah, nothing like casual sexual harassment under the guise of
power,
cultural tradition, I guess.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I think Louis C.K. is an interesting, because he's not the first comedian to be canceled, right? Aziz Ansari, I think of him as well, right? When it comes to like high profile comedians who've been canceled. But Louis C.K., before we learned all the before we learned his thing, about his thing, he was already the asshole comedian, right? Like his persona was like, I'm a dick. And that's, I'm going to say shit that'll make you mad, but I'm going to say it funny, right? Like that was his whole thing.
He never purported to be a good person.
No. Which is why when everyone found out about the stuff, it wasn't necessarily like it wasn't like you found out Tom Hanks was a, serial killer or something, right? Because you find out about Tom Hanks, you're like, illusion shattered, we're in the darkest timeline. But with Louis C.K., it's like, okay, I could see it, and it really sucks that he did it. But now we're also learning he is such a bad person that he's like, yeah, and I'm proud. I'm proud enough to incorporate it in my livelihood, like in my material.
Yeah. Because dare I talk about my feelings when we're talking purely about facts here? I actually, like, even though he's clearly an asshole even before finding out about like as we're terming his thing. I always saw him as like a wise asshole though. Specifically, he has a bit where he talks about like you don't get to say that you didn't like hurt someone. Like you don't get to decide that their feelings weren't hurt when they were. Mm-hmm. And like interspersed throughout the very impolite jokes were like these pretty good kernels of wisdom, which is why it's really disappointing to learn this about him, because especially the way he talked about women previously, you know, as impolite, and he loves to use that word, impolite, as he is, as raunchy as he is, I never felt that he was misogynistic, when often in the comedy space, that's easy material. Talk about women. You know,
am I right, fellas?
And Dane Cook had that whole thing about cheating on, stupid women. And I thought that was hilarious as a kid until later. I was very horrified. Mm-hmm. But I digress from my feelings, because now my feelings are all of rage because my man, I don't want to claim him. He's not my man. He's my client in cancel court. The Sincerely Louis C.K. tour is kicking off on August 13th, traveling through 24 cities as part of his comeback tour that was originally scheduled for 2020, but delayed because of COVID.
If I could just take a wild guess, I'm going to go out on a limb and say all of those tour dates probably take place in red states.
And Europe, actually, also.
Oh,
okay.
That's good. Well, I mean, Limp Bizkit canceled their tour. I can't imagine Louis C.K. is going to be, well, he might continue. I don't know.
He's already performing. I did find quite a few tweets about like, wow, I finally got to see Louis C.K. I thought I never would be able to after the canceling. I'm really glad I got to see him. Because he's
so
hilarious.
Maybe. I'm getting the sense here that despite being canceled, he's doing fine.
Yes.
Financially speaking. And I mean, I know he's sold out shows, right? So it's like his popularity hasn't really taken a hit. If anything, it's gone up because now it's like controversy popularity or whatever, right? Like where, let's be honest, probably some more conservative right-winger anti-cancel culture, cultural war people are like, I'm going to support my boy because he got canceled by the libs. And by buying that ticket, I'm going to own the libs.
Owned.
Yeah, so he's probably looking at a slightly different audience now, if I had to guess.
It's weird to think about like who makes up that audience now. I wrote this down because I really liked it. And it's not like he's not being protested. At one of his random comeback, I use that phrase very lightly now, appearances at the Comedy Cellar, there were protesters, and one of them had a sign that said, "When you support Louis C.K., you tell women that your laughter is more important than their sexual assaults and the loss of their careers."
Yeah. Sounds all right.
And so to everyone that's attending those shows with full knowledge of what he's done, that's kind of what you have to live with, or should morally reckon with. But as far as whether or not he has been canceled to the full extent of cancel culture, I think he had a very light canceling, a slap on the wrist canceling. Maybe we won't see, the feature films that he imagined himself writing, directing, and starring in. But the man still has a comedy career, clearly.
Yeah. I mean, it goes to show it really matters how you handle getting canceled too, right? Because even though he has admitted to doing all of these bad things, and now we know, he probably, if you're a woman, don't be alone in a room with him, probably. He was still apologetic in tone when he was, caught with his hand in his pants jar, right?
Yeah.
And I think back to pre cancel culture. I mean, cancel culture has been around for a long time, but it hasn't really been called that until recently, right? But do you guys remember the Seinfeld co-star? Oh my God, what is his name? He played Kramer. Richard Michaels.
The guy who played Kramer.
Yeah, the Kramer
I definitely recognize Kramer.
Yeah, he did a comedy show. This is back when we were all kids, right? And he did a show where he just kind of went maximum racism, mask off, yelling the N-word and stuff like that. And then when the crowd was disappointed in him, his response wasn't that was really unprofessional, I'm sorry. It was, these are the words. As if he was trying to say oh, you're just going to cancel me because I'm a racist, huh? And it's when's the last time you've heard about Kramer from Seinfeld, right?
Yeah.
He's actually been kind of canceled. Whereas a Louis C.K., all it takes is just a little bit of apology in your tone. And suddenly he's that hurt hero who's being hurt by the media instead of, someone who maybe doesn't deserve your money.
Yeah. It's really difficult because it's one of those things where what he did was very, very wrong. But he apologized, and to some people that's enough, right? It's a very person by person basis thing where it's that's okay, that's fine by me. Can we just get back to the comedy now? I'm sure that's how some people see this. That's going to depend on who you are. But if he's truly going to get on people's good side, I don't know, he would have to come out in support of women, really really truly recognize exactly what he's done wrong and how he can get over that. And if he's going to be in the public eye and not just going to go away, he needs to publicly acknowledge exactly what he did, why it's wrong, and how he's fixing it.
Yeah. So my closing argument, considering that he did say, I hurt people, I wielded my power irresponsibly, I realize what I did was wrong, I don't forgive myself for this. And then moving on from there, do we judge him, I guess, to be well and truly canceled?
No, God, no.
No. Yeah, well, is he canceled? No. That's the reality. Are you should he be canceled? I don't know.
I think he has been shamed, and that's really it. I wouldn't even say it's defamation, because even if you wholeheartedly disagree with sexual misconduct, you still know Louis C.K.'s name probably. If you knew his name back then, you don't suddenly unknow it now, right?
Right. So yeah, I sentence him to more public shaming, I guess, is where I would be as far as this cancel court goes. Gavel sounds.
Yeah, I'll totally put them in.
Ding, ding. Thank you.
I won't.
Gavel sounds. Hear ye. We now move to the next order of business, our next case. The canceling of Johnny Depp.
The Pirate Man?
Sit down, gather round.
You might know him from a couple movies. He was Jack Sparrow, right?
Yes.
Oh, I know that character from Sea of Thieves.
Yeah.
Wait, we're talking about Sea of Thieves as Johnny Depp?
Yeah,
yes.
And Grindelwald?
Grindelwald, yes. Let us tell the tall tale of Captain Jack Sparrow and one Amber Heard, shall we? So in the notes, we make a document for every one of our shows, and in the notes, I just put under Johnny Depp, shit's fucking fucked, y'all, because
cancel.
It's all over the place. This whole situation is all over the place. In terms of where you lie, on whether it's on the side of Amber or on the side of Johnny Depp, it's going to be completely up to you. But I will try to present the main points of what's going on. But I will be honest, there's so much back and forth, and this is still ongoing, and it's such a mess. And quite honestly, some of it shouldn't even be public. It's such a mess that I don't really know completely what to make of it. But it all began, I think the earliest in the timeline, there was a breakdown that I looked up, but the earliest in the timeline, it was around mid to late 2015. And Johnny Depp was actually on the set of, I think, the fifth Pirate. Was that the last Pirates of the Caribbean movie, the fifth one?
The worst one?
Sixth
yeah.
one?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Wait, there aren't more? I feel like there are more.
There's 12, actually. No.
Yeah, I think there's 5. So, apparently, like around the time he had been filming that, they were filming off the coast of Australia, if I recall correctly. And so him and Amber were like staying there, and that's when like Amber Heard being actress Amber Heard, and they got, I don't remember when they got married, but they were married, right? They got married around that time or just sometime after. Because I don't even think they were together for very long before they got married. But it became this whole thing of there were several cases of alleged domestic abuse on both sides. So it was verbal abuse, physical abuse, and among many other things, emotional abuse, etc. And there are so many different tellings and so many different accounts from both sides that it's hard to tell. However, it initially came out that from Amber Heard's side. So for the longest time, a lot of people thought, oh, turns out Johnny Depp's, just another celebrity entitled kind of a piece of shit. But that was until the case turned around, and I think around 2018, 2019, when it started to come out that actually, no, Johnny Depp has receipts and he has video and audio recordings of verbal arguments and abuse that Amber Heard had taken out on Johnny Depp. So it turns out that it's seemingly more likely, because there's more evidence, that Amber Heard had been the abuser most of the time, this whole time. Maybe. And that's backed by a couple of Johnny Depp's previous one of them I don't think he was married to, but spouses. One of them being Winona Ryder, and the other I'm failing to remember. But both of them gave accounts of their relationship with Johnny Depp, both basically clearing his name, saying that no, he never said a bad word to me while we were together.
Interesting.
Not a single bad thing. And obviously they were removed from those relationships. They had, I don't see why they would have a reason to say clear his name, because if he was an abuser, they could have just said so,
Right.
I mean, because both of those people in those situations
of public opinion had already turned against him at that point.
Yeah, well, but it was after the recordings and all that stuff had come out, on Johnny Depp's side, because his lawyer presented those in court, that everyone's oh, Amber Heard's actually the abuser, because there is a recording of her basically saying that something along the lines of oh, I'll just tell them that you hurt me. It's something to that effect, and that you hurt my arm and stuff like that. And there's several photos of Johnny Depp's bruises and cuts and injuries that he'd suffered, and apparently even suffered I think a concussion, a broken bone or two because of the physical altercations they got into. Apparently Amber Heard threw wine bottles at his head and all this crazy stuff. And so I know I'm leaning Johnny Depp here, but it just sounds like a lot of the evidence favors Johnny Depp as we stand right now, because I think the last time they had checked in on the court case was August of this year, so it's very recent. So yeah, Johnny Depp may be cleared. We have yet to see. Like I said about the photos of his injuries, there's also photos of Amber Heard saying these, she came out and said these are photos of my injuries, and some people that have seen them alleged that they were fake. Yeah. So it's a gigantic domestic mess that is still ongoing, and is there's a lawsuit and then a counter lawsuit happening right now from Johnny Depp's side. But yeah, as it stands right now, though, last I checked, people were yeah, no, Johnny Depp's fine. But because of the whole situation to begin with, Johnny Depp ended up getting dropped for his role in the Fantastic Beasts sequels, The Crimes of Grindelwald. So, yeah.
Ironically, was the role of a villain.
Yeah. And
at
so
the time.
they dropped him from the role as a direct consequence of this whole situation when it turns out that he actually might be the victim. So.
And you know, maybe this is just where I fall when it comes to consuming mainstream pop culture. But I kind of feel like since Pirates 3, Johnny Depp hasn't really had a big W. Right? In terms of like movie and like, oh, I really love Johnny Depp in that movie.
That iconic role, because that's what he was. He was the guy that did the iconic roles.
I mean, yeah, I think it says a lot that the last crossover tie-in in video games for him is Jack Sparrow still in Kingdom Hearts and in Sea of Thieves. But but it's not like the upcoming Hogwarts Legacy game is like, and starring Grindelbud, right? Like, I mean, I don't even know if he's in the timeline there. You know, who gives a fuck?
Who knows?
Yeah. So point being is, unlike Louis C.K., who I would say around the time he was quote unquote canceled, he was still like fairly popular. People had a very favorable opinion of him. They thought he was the really asshole funny man, right? Whereas with Johnny Depp, it's kind of like almost, I don't want to say hard to care because these are really awful things that are happening, but in relation to his status as a public figure and star, you know, I mean, the world had moved on by that point, is the vibe I get.
I will argue with you on this one as far as the hero worship would be a very strong, the admiration that people had for Johnny Depp as a person, for not only his characters, but then like he would, you know, dress up as Jack Sparrow and go and visit children's hospitals.
Yeah, that's true.
And he was very good at doing like those character actors, or those characters, I should say. He is a character actor. Because just from my memory of when this all came out, it was a big betrayal for a lot of people, as far as like, dang it, I thought he was one of the good ones. And it was a very, I guess, difficult time as far as like people were like, I don't know who to believe, but, you know, as a default, I think that people want to lean toward like, we should believe women when they say that this has happened to me.
And it's worth noting too, I think this started to come out in like 2017, 2018, around the time when like the Me Too movement was like exploding. You know, really, really picking up.
Yeah. So even when, you know, speaking from personal experience, like having doubts, it felt bad to have doubts as far as like, but why should I say that she's lying?
Yeah.
Why would she lie about that? And the only, I guess, ever piece of like, you know, quote unquote concrete evidence that I ever saw was there was a video of him. I think he was drunk. There was a lot of talk at the time about his alcohol abuse issues, and of him just smashing dishes while she tried to talk to him. And it wasn't necessarily a moment of abuse, but it definitely spoke to a very deep dysfunction in their relationship. And like you said earlier, Colin, a lot of this felt like, I don't think that this ever should have be brought out other than in a divorce court, maybe, or couples counseling. Yep.
Yeah. I mean, Ed, I will say, like, on both sides, though, I mean, it just sounds like very unhealthy for both people in this situation. And another thing that I guess, just side note on this whole situation, for some reason, Elon Musk is involved, because apparently he has some sort of friendship or relationship vaguely with Amber Heard. There is like stuff that he's tweeting about her, but he texts with her frequently. They're like friends, whatever that means.
Okay.
Very strange.
Is she South African?
I don't know.
I mean, look, they're the elite, you know, they're all friends, whatever.
Yeah, it's just the weirdest thing. And it was like, Elon Musk had even tweeted out some years back something along the lines of like I don't. He like came to her defense and saying that like, you know, if Johnny wants to say something, he can, or something like that. It was really like vaguely not threatening, but kind of like come at me, bro, a little bit.
Interesting.
Like white knighting almost.
Right. Yeah, I don't know where I would fall on this one, because I mean, you know, allegations on both sides are pretty bad, but I also get a pretty big like he said she said thing, and it seems like right now he said has a lot more evidence to support it, right? But then like Daly's alluding to it kind of in a weird way, right? Maybe this is just something for everyone to kind of ponder on and, you know, food for thought, right? It feels really weird and shitty when it comes to a cancellation and then you tell the woman, I don't believe your story, right? Like even if all of the facts do genuinely line up, there's just something that feels wrong about it, right?
Yeah, and I mean, it doesn't help too that like this stuff started coming out right at the peak of the Me Too movement, and so a lot of people were just like, yeah, like, you know, of course,
hashtag
like
believe women.
Yeah,
right.
like of course he was, you know, abusing you and assaulting you, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah. Just we'll protect you.
Well, because I mean, the point of the hashtag, right, is that, you know, it can be, I imagine, very hard for a woman to want to speak out about this stuff, especially when the man in question is a super powerful comedian like Louis C.K. or super powerful actor like Jonathan Depp, right? Like these people have sway, influence, power. You know, all it takes is for them to say, hey, if you say something bad, you're not going to get your next job in Hollywood or whatever, right? Mm-hmm. And it can be really scary to put yourself out there and tell your truth, which is where the hashtag believe women comes from. And I very much support it, right? But then, I mean, this is why no one watches court, right? Like, because once you start bringing evidence in, it's like, well, okay, now you have to really start judging things and like looking at facts, counterfacts, contradictions in the arguments, and then it just gets really messy.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really what it is all around, and that's why I like even reading through the timeline of everything. It was almost hard for me to keep everything straight that had happened in this whole case. So I don't know. It's going to be one of those things where they're just going to have to, like, I guess, settle it, and what happens. But I think my takeaway, honestly, though, is just both of these people are dysfunctional, in some sense, to varying degrees. It's
still messy, right? We're not totally clear, but there have been, I guess, like career consequences, like you mentioned. You know, he was dropped, ironically, from his villainous role as Grindelwald.
Yeah, Amber Heard was also, in
she
Aquaman? Was that her latest role?
Yeah, so she was I want to call Mara the deuteragonist of Aquaman, but man, that movie did its own thing, I'll say that. But she was dropped from the second movie. She's no longer Mara in the DC universe of superhero movies. But that said, Johnny Depp just got a Lifetime Achievement Award just this past week. I don't know if she's being cast again in films. I mean, prior to Aquaman, I couldn't... She was in The Devil's Rejects. I remember that.
I don't.
But I don't know what other movies she was in.
I honestly, I don't know. I honestly don't know, but I thought this would be a particularly interesting case because obviously Johnny Depp is someone that pretty much everyone on the planet is familiar with. Like, he's that big of an actor.
Yeah, very famous for his role in The Lone Ranger.
Yeah.
Holy shit. Talk about if that movie came out in the year of our Lord 2021, he would have been hella canceled.
Yep. For different reasons.
Yep.
Yeah, for different reasons. A lot of people don't know he also got to start in Nightmare on Elm Street, the first one. That's where his first big,
I know.
role was.
Oh, Daly knows everything.
That crop top is unforgettable.
Oh, yeah. He's definitely...
Remember when men could wear crop tops? Let's bring that back, boys.
Men can still wear crop tops.
Yeah.
I don't know what the fuck you're talking about, Daly.
Yeah, I mean, 80s fashion is making a big enough comeback. Why not? Yeah, so don't really know what to make of it, though. I really don't know where to conclude it. So I mean, that's just kind of like the facts. And I'm just like, I want to say based on what we've been presented with that it's Johnny Depp. Like I think he is the one who like more of a victim in this situation, but I honestly don't know.
So here's my question then. I think Daly, the Honorable High Justice Daly, did say that we are out to determine if people should have a redemption arc, right?
Yes.
I think so far we've determined Louis C.K. does not. With Johnny Depp, let's say he is exonerated of his sins of being canceled. Is it really a redemption arc if the facts say he has been the one who has been manipulated, emotionally and physically abused, but now we know that he is the victim, therefore he is redeemed? Am I making sense here? Is he being redeemed of something, really? Or is it just that he's finally being found, quote unquote, innocent for something that he has been framed for?
It's the difference between redemption and vindication. To sound fancy here.
Yeah, it sounds, the internet would have you believe the latter, right? But a lot of people are just kind of like, the court of public opinion basically said, oh, actually, Johnny Depp was the victim. And then ever since then, people have like tuned out and like kept watching his movies, essentially. They're just like, oh, yeah, okay, that's great. And then they kept scrolling. I feel like that's just the realistic answer.
Mm-hmm.
It makes me uncomfortable. And I think it's important to examine the reasons why. I think we hit on some of that as far as like, it feels like we're saying, no, I don't believe you, Amber Heard. You are a lying liar, just like all the other women that lie about stuff. So,
right. Yeah. But is that a slippery,
bad, man?
Is that a slippery slope? Right, exactly.
Slippery slope.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm leaning towards like, I don't know. You both sound like fucked up people, so I don't really know what to make of this. Is where I stand on it.
Colin, Daly and I aren't that awful.
Yeah.
That was hurtful.
Yeah. Fuck you guys.
No, I think part of, getting into that slippery slope argument, right? Let's fall down this slope a little. When you group everything as cancel culture, like what's what we're doing when we're framing it in the show, right? So we're the problem. When we say, okay, this Johnny Depp Amber Heard thing is a cancel culture event, Louis C.K. is a cancel culture event, Aziz Ansari, all these other people, when you keep grouping them in that same way, you start to want to, it's just the thing we do as humans, we start to want to see patterns, right? So when we're seeing like incident A, I want to believe the woman, incident B, I believe the woman, incident C, woman, D, E, F, G, I believe the women in all of them. But now incident F, hold on, it's Johnny Depp, but I actually don't believe Amber Heard. But that's weird. That's like breaking the pattern, right? And I wonder if that might be part of it, is that our brain just kind of wants to, I think a lot of people in the culture wars would want you to think of cancel culture as this one big thing that is trying to be orchestrated by a cabal of some kind or something like that, right?
The lizard men.
Right. But really, I think all of these things are just isolated incidents where many of them happen to have some similarities, but they're not all the same. And we need to remember that.
Yeah. We keep bringing up Aziz Ansari, but I remember his situation was actually kind of the first time we'd seen cancel culture really, well, at least seemingly overshoot, because it was like one of those things where I think the story goes that he was on like a date with someone, right? And it just turns out that he's just extremely awkward. It was just an awkward, bad date. But then like there was an attempt to Me Too him because of just a bad date. And it's like, okay, like obviously I don't know the nitty gritty details, but like if we're going to go as far as like now any even just like somewhat bad or just bad social experience gets turned into like a canceling now, like what are we doing? At least that's what I remember thinking at the time. But I don't know if something else has come out, and if it has, please say something.
So if we get to the gavel banging kind of closing argument, maybe I feel like, and don't let me speak for you guys, what we're leaning toward is that this wasn't a clear cut who is the victim here. Everyone suffered, and there was no clear, I guess, target of the cancel culture because both parties involved were canceled to some extent.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I almost see it as like, this probably shouldn't be something considered cancel culture in a weird way, because it just feels like a domestic dispute. You know, I think we've all been alluding to that ever since Colin started talking about this, right? It felt really weirdly, deeply personal. And I think it just happens to be a cancel culture flashpoint because they are both public people. But had this just been, you know, like John and Linda, that couple down the street having this argument, sure, you'd probably hear about it from your neighbors or whatever, but you wouldn't like, you wouldn't cancel them. You wouldn't say John should lose his fucking job or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, granted, like, no matter what kind of situation that you're in, I don't think it's right to ever put your hands on another person in the way that this case suggests, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, or harm the other person in any sense, that sort of thing, right? Like, you know, one thing, like having like a couple spat, or just like a lover's quarrel, or like something that just, you know, life happens and you get a divorce, what have you. I mean, this goes beyond a little bit, like, this isn't Marriage Story, you know, it goes beyond that a little bit. This isn't just arguing about like where we're going to live and where we should raise our child and career choices, etc. This is like, you know, allegedly somebody threw a fucking wine bottle at someone's head and someone like grabbed the other and like fucking threw him to the ground, and like punches and kicks were thrown. And yeah.
Well, I mean, Mr. Driver does punch a wall.
He does punch a wall.
Yeah.
And it is much memed upon.
Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe he should go to court with the wall. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The wall
Damages.
canceled.
The wall is canceled. I don't #believe walls. Gavel banging moment.
Ding,
Let's
ding.
end on the wall and move on to the next case of the day, which would be Robert. You are representing Chris Avellone.
Yes, I am. Let me get my.
Is it
papers in order for
Avellone?
this.
Avellone? I always go back and forth on this.
It's Avellone.
Is it?
Hello, welcome to court.
Thank you.
So Chris Avallone's probably a really bad person, if I had to guess. But let's go through the facts before I paint the picture too hard.
By the way, probably the least famous out of all the three that we're talking about today.
But very famous in the games industry, and I kind of wanted to bring that in because
You fucking nerd.
thank you. Well, because you know clearly the Me Too movement happened very bigly. Apparently,
Wow. Starting out strong.
very strong in Hollywood, right? In that scene, celebrities and all that. I think it's only been recently in the past year or two that it's really been hitting the games industry, where we've been hearing more and more stories about really awful influencers doing shitty things, which, like, honestly, not surprising. Ubisoft, Actibliz, Riot, you know, list goes on, right? Like, there are a lot of
Rockstar.
Rockstar. So this movement is coming to the games industry, unfortunately, way later than it should, but at least it is here, right? And Chris Avellone is one of the people who was quote unquote canceled last year in June 2020, right? And the allegations go that in 2012, he was at a con, where actually most allegations in the games industry happen at cons. Which is, right?
Seemingly a lot of them are coming out in the early 10s too lately.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well,
I think that's just coincidence, but
I mean, I couldn't tell you why, right? But
yeah.
In 2012, he allegedly tried to get specifically a Carissa Barrows very drunk, so then he could bring her up to her room and do things with her, right? The way Avellone would tell the story is that he was buying drinks for everyone. The way Barrows would tell the story is he was very pushy to her specifically to make sure she got very drunk, right? They made out in front of her room. He tried to go further. She said, "This is a bad idea." She very clearly said, "I think this is a bad idea." And then they stopped. And then they kind of flirted, like DMs on Twitter and shit. And then not much else happened between them. Miss Barrows set Chris up with her friend named I'm forgetting her name now. Anyway, so this friend, right? I think Jacqueline, maybe, or Jackie. That's it, Jackie. Chris and Jackie had a really bad breakup, and now Chris believes that this is essentially a long con where Carissa is saying these bad things because she is salty that Chris hurt her friend. Therefore, she is trying to cancel him. That is where Chris is coming from. He thinks this is just, girl power gone too far against me, Chris Avellone, right? Is the vibe that I get out of this.
Okay.
Yeah. So the way Chris tells the story is when he heard, I think this is a bad idea, he assumed she meant, because we're out in like the hotel hallway, not because she doesn't want this to happen, right? So for the year from June 2020 to June 2021, Chris was super canceled. He lost he lost his gig at Techland for Dying Light 2. He is not working there anymore. He lost a gig with Hardsuit Labs here in Seattle, who were formerly working on Vampires: The Masquerade Bloodlines 2 until they weren't. So that's just a whole other thing. But Chris isn't on that project anymore. And he also lost a writing gig with an indie studio called Gato Studio. They were working on this thing called The Waylanders. So yeah, he lost all of his jobs at the time, right? And also, defamation, shame, and all that other.
So what shape did the defamation take? Basically, was it sorry, I'm looking for her name again. Carissa saying like, hey, this happened. He was really pushy.
Yeah, Carissa was framing it as he was very pushy and tried to sexually assault me.
And why did that come up? Was that just like her like, y'all need to know that Chris is like this?
Yeah, was it like a public announcement or something she just like publicly outed?
So she tweeted this out, and this was after a cavalcade of a lot of other women in the industry coming out and like telling their stories about many other really shitty people in the industry. Some literally in the development houses, some YouTubers, Twitch streamers, that sort of group, right? Influencers.
This was around the time the Pro Jared thing happened, wasn't it? I think so.
This was around the time.
He also got uncanceled somehow.
No, he did. He's just forcing it.
Oh.
He's like, no, I'm not canceled, guys. I'm really not.
Yeah, I remember
like, you're canceled.
Yeah, I remember the first time I saw fucking like a YouTube, like the almighty algorithm put one of his new videos in front of me, and I was like, oh my fucking god, look at that guy. So yeah, this wasn't
but
like
okay.
Yeah, this wasn't like Chris. Well, I think Chris did publish, or not he did, but IGN published a video interview with him recently on a new game. And Chris believes or says he thinks that this accusation was calculated to essentially like, while his name's in the mainstream, let's get him. Let's take him down. Right.
Weird.
Yeah. So these accusations were up there for a year. Chris Avellone is pretty much shamed, and not many people are fond of the name anymore, despite, again, he is a very big name in the games industry. Like, he wrote Fallout New Vegas, KOTOR 2, Prey, a few other like nerdy ass games, right? Like, he's a pretty famous games writer. Until this year, June 2021, when he publishes on his fucking Medium, he publishes an article called "It's Come to This." Just out of nowhere, it's just called "It's Come to This," where it's
I love Medium.
Yeah. It's like a 5,000, 6,000 word thing. I mean, he's a writer, believe it or not, right? It's a super fucking long version of his account of the events that night and then surrounding events around it, where he's trying to clear his name, right? And it's essentially another he said, she said, right? It's in a weird way similar to the Amber Heard Johnny Depp thing, right? Because it's kind of like there are a lot of similarities in their two tellings of the story, but it's just the interpretation of the events that are different. So it's kind of hard to say like who's at fault here, right? Is the kind of vibe you get.
Yeah. Sorry, I had a kind of like an anecdote. So I remember when the Chris Avellone thing had first come out, I remember someone I followed on Twitter, like actually put up screenshots of messages they had received from Chris directly. And unpromptedly, he had said in these messages that he wanted to eat this woman's pussy.
Yeah, it was just straight up sex.
Yeah, like, and then she's like, just obviously didn't reciprocate, and he like tried to apologize for it, but I don't know, it was just really uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know what to make of this. This is really weird.
The most sus thing to me and Chris's argument is, I mean, he also has screenshots of these like DMs and texts with Carissa, right? And in it, he's alleging, well, I mean, you can read it, assuming the screenshots aren't doctored, right? And they do paint this picture of Carissa being very friendly to him and being nice and like enthusiastic, where to his mind, he's like, I just saw all the signs. I don't know, right? I mean, she was giving me the right vibes, and I just took the vibes, right?
Basic common decency being mistaken for flirting. I love it. That's my favorite thing.
Very incel behavior.
I mean, there are parts of it that are flirty. I mean, like there are moments where, again, if these screenshots are not doctored, Carissa says stuff like, are you going to be at the next con? Because if you're not, who's going to walk me to my room, right?
Oh, okay. That's flirting.
It's flirty.
That's definitely flirting.
It's flirty, right? But then it's like you have to think, okay, hold on. Let's put ourselves in her shoes there for a minute. Why would she be an asshole to Chris Avellone, one of the most famous people in 2012 in the video games industry, if she herself is trying to get into the games industry, right? It's like he is ignoring the power he has, you know, and just trying to be like, I just was reading the signals, man. I didn't try to take advantage of anything, right?
Yeah. Okay. So this is okay. Well, first of all, I should say this. The key word between the Avellone and the Louis C.K. thing here is consent, people. Let's just get that out there. You know, consent.
It's a good word.
Consent is important. And you should be doubly sure that you have someone's consent before you perform any sort of acts, sexual or otherwise, to their person, or saying things to like that to the said person, whatever. You know what I mean? But like when it gets into like talking about signals and like understanding where someone is, like where someone's at, like this is a little bit different because you add in the whole idea of power dynamic, right? And if you're not aware of that, that's on you, right?
Yeah.
Because you should know where your relationship falls in according to the power structure between you and the other person. I mean, it's the same reason why, you know, I mean, a lot of celebrities, they date other celebrities, etc., because it's, you know, it's just different. It's not the same when you're dating, like a celebrity dates like just a normie person. There's a huge gap there.
Yeah. Between us normies and the celebs on high.
The elite.
Yeah.
The elite. The lizard
because
men.
it gets into the psychology behind relationships and the motive behind why you're talking to that person, et cetera, et cetera. But if we're just talking about like misreading signals, like I've had times in my life, especially when I was a teenager, because I was fucking oblivious, where I was like, I don't know how to read social signals. I can't tell if like this girl is into me or not. Like this is really difficult for me to read. Like it's the whole like, you know, the extra credits bit where they're like, you're like, oh, but she's like touching my dick, but I still don't know she's into me.
Yeah.
Or like whatever. Yeah, I've had times like that where like someone is sending me mixed signals. But even when someone has sent me like mixed signals and I was like, I didn't understand what was going on or whatever, I was like, I'm not gonna like make a move or anything like that if I'm like unsure, you know, like I'm not gonna pull anything like that. So it's on you to have restraint is what I'm getting at.
Right.
Yes. As my grandmother used to say, assuming makes an ass out of you and me.
Same.
Yeah.
Get it?
No, I don't.
Just don't make assumptions. Don't assume anything ever.
So I want to get a gut check from both of you with where we are right
My
now. Right. Actually, let me present one more piece of evidence.
All right.
Chris Avellone also starts incorporating in that Medium post. He updated it like a week or two later because someone named Jeff Johnson, who worked on another game back around like 2012, 13, interviewed him along with Carissa. There was like this group interview thing. It's on YouTube right now if you want to go watch it and listen to it. But Jeff Johnson, this person, is basically in Chris's corner, right? He is also corroborating Chris's side of the story and trying to paint Carissa as someone who is indeed romantic, or who was at the time indeed romantically interested in Chris, right? Therefore, why would she call this sexual misconduct? Because she clearly wanted it, is essentially the vibe Mr. Johnson's trying to push, right?
You can be romantically interested in someone and still be harassed or assaulted by them.
That's an interesting take, Daly. You're
yeah,
right.
because that's basically saying marital rape doesn't exist.
Yeah. And just not to twist the knife a little bit, but Mr. Johnson also called Carissa basically an alcoholic like 5 times in this Medium post. Like, not straight up that, but definitely was just kept hinting like, oh, and she really wanted to drink. Like, clearly she really likes the liquor, you know what I'm saying, guys? So
she drinks a lot. Maybe she drinks too much.
Yeah, so
not saying anything, like that kind of tone.
Yeah, that kind of tone. Very like hints of misogyny being peppered throughout this.
Love it.
So now that I have that evidence out there, I want to ask, who do you believe in this story? Do you believe Carissa's side of the story or Chris's side of the story? Barrows or Avellone? I just realized their names sound sort of similar.
It's Carissa Barrows, right?
Yeah, Carissa Barrows and then Chris Avellone.
What did she stand to gain from maligning? If this was, totally false, if we totally take him at his word, at his Medium post, what does she gain from this? Why would she do it?
Yeah, I would even, Daly, take it one step further and say, like, when a woman comes out of this, like, what does pretty much any woman gain?
Self-respect.
To be honest, but like what I'm saying is, like, it's agonizing though, right? For like someone to be like, okay, they're coming out and telling their side of a story, like in this case, and like now I risk getting harassed because I said a bad thing about this person that people like because he made a thing that they like.
Yeah. That's why I always struggle to identify at all with the narrative that like, oh, like she timed this, I had that interview come out and so she timed it for what reason? To get internet clout?
That karma, baby.
Yeah, Reddit karma. I mean, I have a hard time believing in like these narratives where it's like someone is conniving behind the scenes to ruin someone else for it, and they're doing so by talking about something very personal and putting themselves in a public spotlight that they previously weren't, and opening themselves up to a lot of additional harassment.
Yes.
Yeah, because it's and this situation, I mean, she comes out and states these things, and like, what does she have to gain other than maybe if like taking out Chris Avellone from the industry, right? Like, because obviously if that's her goal, because she doesn't want anyone in the future to be abused by him in any way, right? I would assume is the goal. Like, you want the harassment to stop. But beyond that, it's like, okay, it's like, oh yeah, thank the Lord you came out and said all this shit about Chris. Here's a job. Or like, here's some monetary gain. Yeah. Right. Unless it's like a lawsuit or something, right? And you're suing for damages, and it actually is like there's financial incentive there. There's not really much to gain, know?
Yeah. No, thank God that a lawsuit isn't involved in the situation. Anyway, so Chris Avellone sued.
God damn it, Robert.
Yeah. It went the other way.
And yeah, so that's the thing. That's the clincher for me, right? Is that even if, let's say I believe Chris Avellone, right? Let's fully like hop on that train for like a second, right? The evidence seems to line up. Chris has been maligned. His name was dragged through the mud when it shouldn't have been. And this Carissa Barrows person just made up a mean story to make my games writer man sad. But then why is he suing her? Right? That is the clincher to me, is that it's just such an asshole move to do, where even if Chris is in the right, why the fuck are you suing her? What are you gonna gain out of this? Like, are you trying to gain all of her money and make her look bad? Because if so, you're probably not a good person anyway, even if you didn't do any of these things. Yeah.
I mean, you can't make the argument, Chris, in saying that, like, well, I, lost all my gigs because of my actions.
Mm-hmm.
Those actions have consequences.
Well, it's not the actions that have consequences, that he was found out. That's what has consequences.
I mean, if he's looking for monetary gain, I mean, okay, I guess. But like, beyond that, what is it? Fucking grandstanding? Like, are you just trying to be like, this is one for the old boys club? Like, we aren't all bad apples, so I'm gonna take a stand and sue the fuck out of you,
bruh. Like, there's easier ways to clear your name, and I think oftentimes it's by just being like, I was a shitty person.
Mm-hmm.
I hope that I have learned from that and have grown as a person and will no longer do shitty things.
Yeah, because it's really the lawsuit that sits sourly with me. Like, if he had just published that Medium post with all the evidence, maybe I'd be in a more like middling place where it's like, I don't know who to side with, nor do I really care, right? But it's the lawsuit that is the red flag that really shows Mr. Avellone does not understand power dynamics, at least his role in any power dynamic ever, right? Because if he really is this, like, if he believes he's this god tier writer, is really good, people know me, love me, respect me, I'm the best, whatever.
You loved New Vegas.
Yeah, you wouldn't sue someone who, by all intents and purposes, compared to you, is a no-name for damages. Like, you would just move on because you're a big boy, big name in the industry, and would just publish that evidence.
Yeah, who's probably a fucking millionaire, by the way. Too.
Well, I mean, games industry doesn't pay maybe that well. I don't know. He's not Bobby Kotick, but nonetheless, if he just publishes the evidence, give him a year or two, I'm sure he's going to be writing Dying Light 3 or Fallout New Vegas 2 or whatever the fuck, he's going to be writing something because he's Chris fucking Avellone. He has power in the industry.
Yeah. Not to minimize whatsoever Miss Barrows' experience, but like, people have done worse things and have continued to have their careers, as clearly evidenced by current events.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So here's the next twist of the knife. The lawsuit's bad.
Oh.
Like, from a legal perspective, it is bad.
I guess it's the poorly written lawsuit.
Most of his allegations are just opinions, man, not really facts or evidence. So that's not really going to fly in a court of law. It's again, literally a legal document that just says he said, she said, which is great.
So it's a legal temper tantrum. Great.
So it's like him being like, my feeling, I was hurt by the things she said.
Yes. And even worse,
give me money.
In his Medium post, he was very clear that he gave the story a year to marinate because he doesn't want to silence Carissa's voice or the other two women's voices, right? Because he wants them to be heard, he wants them to be seen, but also I'm mad, right? That's his vibe, essentially, right? Like, I want to hear their stories, but I don't like their stories and what it means for me, right? So his solution to help these women be heard is to sue them, make them pay a lot of money for a lawyer, money they may not be able to afford, and then they have to settle out of court, and that settlement's probably going to include, hey, don't ever say anything about me again, which is silencing them anyway.
Wait, so has this lawsuit gone to court, or is it just out there now?
It was just filed. He is claiming it is not a slap. If you're familiar with the term, it's a strategic lawsuit against public participation, which is essentially a lawsuit you purposefully publish or you put out there because you know the people you're suing can't afford to show up in court. So you're basically telling them, hey, shut the fuck up, in legal terms.
Yeah.
And he is Chris is very firmly saying, no, this is not a slap. I'm not trying to silence them, right? And he's filing it in California because he lives in California. None of the women live in California. And California...
Oh, that's even... Oh, my God.
It's bad. And then on top of that, California has the strictest anti-slap lawsuit laws in the country. So...
I would imagine so.
Yeah.
Considering Hollywood, etc.
Right.
And this seems very... you made a bad Twitter post about me. I'm taking you to court.
Yeah, so basically, this is big boy writer man being angry about a thing that women are accusing him of, and his temper tantrum is costing him millions.
I think, this is a little bit of a tangent, but as someone who's like trying to get into the game dev side of the industry, it's coming across people like this, people at the Activision Blizzard and shit like that. That's the stuff that scares me, right? Because like, I'm a cis white dude, but like if I'm ever in an environment, right, where I see a coworker who is female getting harassed or shit like that, I mean, like, you go to like HR or whatever, you try to say something, like it's just such a mess. Like what do you do? You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, obviously the right thing would be to report it, right? But if the HR is not even on your side and things like that, like if I hear about people like this and I work with people like this, it would bother the hell out of me.
Yeah.
It should.
Yeah, and you should say something. That would be the optimal thing to do, right?
Yeah, you should say something. But what I'm saying is I understand why people don't. And quite honestly, if you're, in the situation where you work at, whatever your dream studio, like it's easy from the outside to say like, yeah, I'm in, if I was in that position, I would say something and get the fuck out. But it's a whole other thing to be in that situation and be like, oh, I just saw something that was kind of off color. What do I do?
And it doesn't help too with this case specifically. There is no HR to go to at Dragon Con 2012. It is a convention.
God, I've learned that conventions are just like dens of iniquity, I guess.
Well,
like
yeah.
I've not gone to many conventions, but I'm gonna make a generalization here. I think a lot of people go to conventions without like, I'm gonna get fucking laid, like in like anything sexual in mind. It's just like, I'm gonna see some cool panels. Maybe I participate in panels. I'm gonna go to the artist alley. I'm gonna network, etc. But I don't understand, I guess, the opposite. There's another side to that where it's like, this is party central. This is, I'm gonna get a bunch of people, like we're gonna get blackout drunk, we're going to get laid, we're going to like be frat boys or frat girls,
rent out the Cosby Suite.
Yeah. Like I feel like I'm not part of a minority in saying that, like, the kind of conventions that the gaming industry does, I don't think that's like, that's party central.
Yeah, I know. We should leave that to anime cons. Am I right?
Yes, or furry cons. That's to be expected with furry cons, right?
Sure. I mean, I do think gaming conventions do have that reputation. I think part of it is like, I don't know, because weirdly, in a way, now if you're like a game dev, especially if you make a really good game and then you go to a game dev con, or if you go to a game con, you're the rock star now. You've suddenly gone from being shoved in the locker in middle school to being a god among men and women, because you created Fallout New Vegas. Like that's it. You've won the lottery by doing that, right?
So it's a power trip.
Kind of. Yeah.
I mean, it kind of is. I mean, these people at Activision Blizzard, shitty as they are, I mean, a lot of them, I mean, the people that come into the games industry, like a good portion of them are probably the kind of like shut in, socially inept types. And I know this is kind of stereotyping, but some of those people are, like that's just like, it's a tech industry and like it just attracts those types of people, like introverts and people that might have not been the in the best part of the hierarchy in high school, what have you. And so like you put those people in positions and then they become successful and they're head of something like Blizzard that makes a shitload of money. Next thing you know, they're rock stars and they feel like they can do whatever they want.
Mm-hmm.
And they have the power trip, like Robert said.
Yeah. And I think it's fine to bask in that a little bit in your own celebrity, but the line is you can't do whatever you want.
You can't abuse your celebrity.
Don't abuse it.
I mean, as far as I know, Todd Howard's not a piece of shit, but he's a fucking game industry rock star.
No, he just works.
Yeah, he just works. That's what I'm saying. But like, be a Todd Howard. Don't be an Alex Afrasiabi.
Let's hope this doesn't age horribly.
Yeah, like, then it comes out that Todd Howard's a piece of shit. Please, God, like, leave us someone, please.
Leave us someone.
Yeah.
So, that's a good question. Who is the Tom Hanks of the games industry? That's a good. Yeah, I don't know.
It's got to be Todd Howard, right?
I don't know. But to circle back to Chris Avellone, look, I'm not here to necessarily pass judgment because it's literally it's going to be in a court of law for actual lawyers and judges and juries to pass judgment.
I'm a judge. What are you talking about? I just said I was the judge at the beginning of this podcast.
I forgot that you're ordained. That's how judges work, right?
Yes. I have my collar and everything. This
DA
is an audio medium.
Yeah,
you can't see
You can marry people now, right? I think that's how it works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ordained priest.
But I don't know. It's definitely like the evidence. I could see an argument where you could think that Chris Avellone has been slighted and his name has been dragged through the mud.
Yeah.
However, his response makes me not like him because it's just a power trip of a response while trying to say I'm not power tripping. I do not feel powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah. So no matter what happens or what actually happened behind closed doors, right? Or behind closed hallways, I guess, open hallways, however you want to say that. The way he's handling the situation is still very telling, no matter what went down, And so I don't know. We don't know. We don't know this guy. I don't even know people who know this guy personally. So like, I don't know what happened. I follow one of the people in the industry that he had like that conversation with, whatever that I referred to earlier, where he was like harassing the woman over text. And but beyond that, it's like, it just comes back to like, hey, stop being a piece of shit, please.
Yeah, basically.
This is really exhausting, and I don't want to work in a workplace where like, yo, I'm just trying to do my job and get my think on and make games, and then I have fucking Jeff, I don't know, Jeff Smith over, Jeff fucking Bezos,
Jeff Bezos himself,
Jeff Bezos, Jeff Smith over here hitting on fucking, Emily from Concept Art, I don't know.
Mm.
But
Poor
you know
Emily.
what I'm saying? Like, I don't want to deal with that.
Yeah. Yeah, I bang my gavel banging noises.
Okay.
Ding ding. I judge that his case of canceling was moderate, and he's only making it worse for himself.
Mm-hmm.
That will be my judgment.
Yeah. Like, look, it sucks to not be on Dying Light 2 anymore because it's like one of the biggest releases of the year, probably. But I mean, you're being willfully stupid if you think Chris Avallone's not going to write a game in the next 20 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know.
See it.
The games industry needs to get better, man. And it all starts with communication, and people just need to be empowered, because like I could just so easily see how you could just not feel empowered whatsoever if you're just, you know, a rank and file at a given studio. You know what I'm saying? Like it's just people need to have power. They need to have like the ability to see something, say something, you know, feel empowered to like stop abuse as it happens, you know, because I couldn't even tell you how I would handle it. I really couldn't.
And remember, folks, as we did mention in our titular Blizzard Activision episode, HR is not there to protect you. HR is there to protect the company.
Yeah.
So in some ways, the only avenue that people have that maybe Carissa felt she had was the public forum, was Twitter, to be like, hey, I've tried to tell people this before. Maybe this is the first time I've said it. Doesn't matter, but
here's my story.
This happened and this wasn't okay.
Yeah.
And I mean, and to be clear too, I mean, obviously support anyone that comes out like claiming abuse, like make sure that, you know, those people and especially in your circles feel heard too. Right. So, cause I mean, whether private or public, I mean, these things are extremely difficult to handle no matter what. So.
Yeah.
You know,
the court of public opinion is a fickle thing. And this one is no different. I think, you know, we can't make totally concrete decisions about how much someone deserves to be canceled or how much less they deserve to be canceled, because some of these situations are not exactly black and white. But I will say that fuck Louis C.K.
Yeah, fuck him. But not that way.
No.
Yeah.
You betrayed me. I feel personally betrayed by his actions.
Yeah, I don't know. I've always found cancel culture stuff tends to be really hard to like talk through sometimes, right? Because like when you go beyond the like believing people, but then when you go into the like, did they or did they not? Like when you try to do what we just try to do, right? Or determine actual guilt. It's hard because the evidence for most, you know, of these situations tends to be emotional and mental. Right? Or like sometimes if you're lucky, you can get like DM, like screenshots of DM, screenshots of tweets, screenshots of conversations or audio recordings even, right? But that's so much harder than determining a murder case because it's like, oh, look, there's blood on the knife and there's a fingerprint of this dude on the knife. Maybe that dude did the kill. End of story, right? Like there's nothing really like no one leaves fingerprints when they emotionally scar someone, not like literal fingerprints we can see, so a third party can look at it and be like, yeah, Chris Avellone's responsible for that, right?
Yeah.
And that's just what makes it so hard.
Yeah, I mean, it's just extremely difficult, and we just need to find a better way of dealing with it. I mean, because the games industry is just, you know, so many people hold it in such high regard as being like this promised land dream job that people try to get into because it's uber competitive and it's passion driven and it's an employer's market. And so it just sets up a recipe for things like this to happen, you know, and it just needs to be taken care of. So
take care of each other. Look out for your fellow person.
Same.
Yeah.
Court adjourned. Ding, ding. That was the gavel noise.
Oh, right.
I hope that's what you use. Like, just cut ding, ding every time that I'm like gavel noise.
We'll see if I even put in a gavel noise.
Oh, man. All right. You guys be the judge as to whether or not the gavel noise will be part of the final edit. But
daily going tink, tink, tink is now a sample that Robert will use now and forever.
Absolutely.
And you can download it as a ringtone for your phone in the description below.
Somebody gets a text message, ting, ting, ting.
Please. Oh my gosh. You can access all of my voice lines and ringtoneable moments here at our podcast, Everything in Poderation, over on the Twitters at Everything in Pod, on the YouTube at Everything in Pod, and wherever you listen to your podcasts at Everything in Pod. If you want to file
A complaint.
What do you do? What is? I don't know how courts work.
Lawsuit.
If you wanna sue us, you can email us at everythinginpod@gmail.com. Looking forward to your email, Mr. Avellone. So, thanks for listening. Sorry if you ever liked Louis C.K. I deeply apologize. I feel your pain. Dink dink.